Beethoven. In the field of Romantic-era music, few names are as recognizable as his. The fact that you can still hear his music being played today is an ode to just how monumental he was, and this guy was enormously famous. I mean, he was huge. Think Michael Jackson, or Beyonce, or the Wiggles. He was also known for being very arrogant, like Kanye, or Bieber, or the Wiggles. There's a lot to talk about here, and with a quick look at our sources, let's dive into the life and the fame of this dead old guy. Ludwig van Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany, in 1770 to a musical family, and from a young age he showed musical prowess. His father, like any rational, loving father would, looked at Mozart's history as a childhood prodigy and thought, hey, I can do that, and started abusing his son to improve his music. Ludwig was flogged, locked in a cellar, deprived of sleep, and all the other things that you probably shouldn't do to a kid. Despite this, Beethoven's musical talent thrived, and he continued to work thusly. In school, however, he was described as very average and even mildly dyslexic by modern theory. So, he dropped out, began studying music full-time. In his studies, he was introduced to this complete nobody named Bach, who totally wasn't famous for anything. Under his study, he published his first set of piano arrangements at the age of 12. But his father's professional-level alcoholism wasn't bringing enough money to the table, so Beethoven requested a position as court organist. Now, up to this point in his life, Beethoven had already been a bit of a prodigy at his age, with even Mozart reportedly saying, yeah, he's pretty good. With all this promise, we now get into... Beethoven's move to Vienna allowed him to study under Joseph Haydn. Surely he would have preferred to study under Mozart, but he was busy. And under Haydn, as well as Salieri and this guy, he made his public debut in 1795 to enormous financial and critical success. He continued to be one of the most celebrated and acclaimed composers in Vienna for a number of years. But all was not well in the world of Ludwig van Beethoven, because while the audience was hearing the music like this, he was hearing it like this. In his mid-30s, Beethoven had to come to terms with the horrible realization that he was going deaf. This was the period in which he composed some of his most famous works, however, as he works against his deteriorating condition and the race against time. It sure is a shame that that's not the only thing that went wrong. In 1815, he got word that his brother had come down with a very serious case of not being alive anymore. This began a long custody battle for his brother's son that lasted 7 years. It was a grueling task, and one that ravaged Beethoven's psyche. But in the end, he won, and now had custody of a son who really hated him. After all this, he composed still, entering a new era of his work until finally came an issue that he could not recover from. He died. With his death came a nationwide mourning, with over 20,000 people in remembrance of him. In all his fame comes a tirade of questions that people have for his life. Some of them include: Beethoven, due to his shyness and unfortunate appearance, meant that he never married nor had children. There are a number of theories pertaining to his early onset of deafness, the most popular of which leads back to a case of typhus in early childhood. Well,